Morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. With me this week is Ryan Blake, otherwise known as Orioles fan Ryan. Ryan, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. How are you, man? Glad to have you on the show.
I'm doing wonderful, Paul. I always appreciate you inviting me back on. I get to do this back-to-back weeks with you again. I know Zach's out for a few, so you got me today, you got me next Saturday, and I'm pumped, man. You know I love talking Orioles baseball.
Yeah, man, and you're an OG on this iteration of the Bat Around. So, you're always one of my first calls. So I'm happy to have you in with us in the virtual studio doing the show today. And as Ryan mentioned, he's with us this week and next week, folks. We are back to full time with the Bat Around. No breaks until unless we go on vacation, and then once we hit next off season, no breaks until then. So we are live today, next Saturday, the 31st, and the following Saturday, February 7th at 10 a.m. Then starting Sunday, February 15th, we are back to 8:30 p.m. Sunday nights. Zach Moore should be with us on just about every show beginning those Sunday nights moving forward. Yeah, super excited to have you in here, Ryan. Talk a little bit about Orioles baseball. Before we get into that, I want to remind everybody today's show is brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. So, Ryan, it's been an interesting offseason. The Orioles came out of the gates hot. They hit the ground running, right? They traded Grayson Rodriguez for Taylor Ward back on November 18th. Then, in the wee hours or the late hours of the evening, heading towards the wee hours of the morning, they trade for Taylor Ward. I was like, this is the only offensive move they're going to make. This isn't enough. But then I came back the next day and I was like, look, this isn't enough if it's the only move. If they go out and they sign Bellinger, Tucker, Alonso, or Schwarber, then I love this move. A few weeks later, they bring in the Polar Bear, 5 years, $155 million. Now I love the Ward move. Now you've got two big right-handed bats in the middle of your lineup that are just going to eat all season long, right? You brought in essentially 80 home runs between those two guys from last year. You traded back with the Cubs cash considerations to bring Andrew Kittredge back in, a sub-1 whip last season, 10.9 to 1.9 strikeout to walk ratio. So 11 to 2 strikeout to walk ratio essentially for Kittredge. You signed Ryan Helsley, who throws 100, was the best closer in the National League from 2022 to 2024. And he was having a good year with the Cardinals until he went to the Mets and apparently started tipping pitches. Apparently, he claims he's figured that out. Hopefully, we'll see him be more of a lockdown closer again, getting back to that closer role with the Baltimore Orioles. He signs for 2 years. Then they trade for Shane Baz, and they trade essentially 5 first-round picks when you really get into it. 4 first-round picks, and what's his name? Was it Burnett? Is that his name?
It was the Forret, Michael Forret.
Yeah. Who is a highly touted prospect for a pitching prospect for the Orioles. A lot of people were most upset with him, but they also traded Slater DeBrun, Kevin Bodine, a competitive balance pick in this year's coming draft, and then one other player. It was essentially 4 first-round picks, and for they got traded for Shane Baz. Now, Shane Baz throws 5 pitches. He can touch triple digits with his heater. He has the makeup of an ace. He's got elite stuff. He's probably being brought in to be your number 3 right now, but his ceiling is sky high. So you love that move. You're like, oh man, what are they going to do next? They bring in Zach Eflin. Zach Eflin was very bad last year, but the previous 2 years, 3.5 ERA, he was nails for the Orioles down the stretch in 2024. And we find out that he had this herniated disc issue in his back, and he had a surgery to right the wrong with the back issue. He says the best he's felt in his entire career, and he's pitched the last 4 years with that back problem. So you figure he's pitching to a 3.5 ERA with the Rays and the Orioles in back-to-back seasons with this back issue. So they bring him in. What's he in here for this year? Is it 12 million, 10 million? I think it's 10 million.
Yeah, it was something like that. But I do just want to say, like, I really appreciated what Eflin said after he ended up signing back here with the Orioles, that he really felt like he wanted to make good on that trade because the
Hmm.
Orioles did give up three solid prospects for him in that deal, and he did pitch well down the stretch for us in 24. Last year, obviously, he came out and said that, for years he had been pitching through this back issue, and it finally got to a point where it was really impacting what he was able to do on the mound. And he felt like he wanted to make good on that trade that the Orioles made and show that, they made the right move in acquiring him. So I really appreciated him coming out and saying that after he did sign back here with the Orioles. And I'm optimistic, man. I mean, look, this is a drum we've been beating for years, was that if all these guys pitch or hit or play up to their potential, the Orioles are going to be a really dangerous team. And I do think that if Eflin's back issue is figured out and he's able to give you, 20 to 25 starts and pitch to a sub 4 ERA, Shane Baz, you get rid of Grayson Rodriguez and then you replace him with Baz. They're very similar in their abilities. They're very similar in their injury history. But guess what? Grayson Rodriguez didn't give you anything last year. Shane Baz made 31 starts.
He gave you over
So,
160 innings,
yeah.
which would have been second on the Orioles last year. So
Hmm.
they said we knew they wanted to bring in two starting pitchers this offseason. Last year, before Eflin got hurt, I was like, I'd bring him back. I'm all for bringing Eflin back. And then even after he got hurt, I was like, if the money's right, bring him back. Because if he's going to get this thing taken care of, he can come back and be the Eflin that he was the year before, then I want that dude in my rotation. And he gets along so well with everybody in that clubhouse. He's a perfect fit for this team. The
Hmm.
question is it enough? Is it enough? Because you look at this rotation, Kyle Bradish, barring injury, is going to get the ball on opening day. He's going to be coming down that orange carpet, or he'll be in the bullpen when they call his name on opening day, right?
Yeah.
Then you've got Trevor Rogers, who got down ballot Cy Young votes this past year, was one of the most valuable Orioles despite making just 19 starts because he had like a 187 ERA. He's not going to do that again, but even if his ERA doubles, that's still a good pitcher in your rotation. Then
Absolutely.
you've got Shane Baz, you've got Zach Eflin, and then Dean Kramer is your number 5. And Dean Kramer, through 171 innings last year, pitched to a 4.19 ERA. And Dean Kramer, if they can figure out how to get rid of his April every
Yeah.
year, the dude's got a 3.5 ERA every year from May 1st on. He does this
Yeah.
every year. April, 5 starts, he gets lit up, and then from May 1st on, he's a number 3 in your rotation. So if they can figure out his slow start and how to rectify that, that's a solid 1 through 5. The question is, Ryan, does that 1 through 5 compete with the other rotations in the American League East? Right? And you look at what you look at for me, the Blue Jays and the Yankees are really your top competition for the top of this division. And with the Yankees, you've got Max Fried, you've got Carlos Rodon, although he's injured, coming back from an injury. You just traded for Ryan Weathers. You've got what's the guy's name? It's eluding me right now. He
The
was rookie of the year in 2024. Is it
oh,
Heel?
Luis Heel. Yep.
Yeah, you've got Luis Heel. You just traded for Ryan Weathers, and
And
you've
then you
got
can't
Corey
forget about Cam Schlitter, who was fantastic for them in the playoffs, and I think that's really good for his confidence going forward. Yeah, the Yankees have an excellent rotation.
and you've also got Garrett Cole coming back probably by midseason, right?
Mhm.
So you think about that rotation. Then you look at the Blue Jays, and they've got Trey Savage, Dylan Cease, Kevin Gossman. Who are the other guys that they have in their rotation?
Still
Shane Bieber.
Barrios,
Shane
Shane
Bieber.
Bieber.
Barrios might be on the outside looking in
Yeah,
for their rotation. Okay,
but if
and
he's
then
their 5, I mean,
yeah,
that's a damn good rotation.
oh, right, and then we'll throw the Red Sox in because the Red Sox made the playoffs last year,
Mhm.
and the Red Sox they traded for Sonny Gray. They've got Brian Bello. They've
Mhm.
got and they've
Garrett
just
Crochet,
signed
of course, who's
Garrett
dominant.
Crochet. And how do I not list Garrett Crochet first? And because I'm trying to get to the fact that they also just signed Ranger Suarez right out from under the Orioles' nose, right?
Mhm.
So So you're looking at those three rotations, and then Shane McClanahan and Drew Rasmussen in Tampa Bay are a legitimate 1-2 punch at the top of your rotation. The Orioles rotation right now, Kyle Bradish is every bit of an ace. People that don't know, you don't watch. Kyle Bradish, if he gives you 31 starts, he's going to be in the Cy Young conversation.
Yeah.
But after that, can Trevor Rogers repeat what he did last year? Can Shane Baz reach that ceiling that we know he has, that sky-high ceiling? Can Zach Eflin bounce back and be the Zach Eflin that we saw in 23 and 24? And can Dean Kramer, mitigate that slow April start and be the pitcher we know him to be from May 1st on for the entire season? That's big ifs. So you look at it, have the Orioles done enough for their rotation? They missed out on Ranger Suarez. Suarez signed for 5 years, $130 million with the Red Sox, and the rumors are that the Red Sox had to meet that because that's what the Orioles had offered, which tells me Ranger didn't want to be here. Or, I'm sorry, in the press conference, his name is Ron Hare. Nobody's ever going to call him that. But, his name is apparently Ron Hare Suarez. So it sounds to me like he didn't want to be here. Everybody's screaming, trade for Peralta. You don't match up with the Brewers. They didn't match up with the Brewers because the Brewers are solid. They have a 700 plus OPS at every starting position in their lineup, except for shortstop. Joey Ortiz, 599 OPS last year. So who is the only player that the Orioles have that the Brewers would have been interested in a Peralta trade? Jackson Holliday. And you're not, because no other shortstop prospect in this organization is close to big league ready.
Right.
And so you were going to have to give up Holliday to get Peralta, and you're not giving up Holliday, one. And two, even if you're considering it, you're not doing that unless you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're extending Peralta. Okay? And honestly, in my opinion, once Bo Bichette signed with the Phillies? No, the Mets.
The Mets.
Yeah. Once Bo Bichette signed with the Mets, the idea of trading Holliday for Peralta went out the window, because the only way I'd be willing to do it is if, one, you can get that extension, and two, you can sign Bo Bichette, because Bo Bichette is who you hope Holliday becomes. That's who you hope Holliday becomes. So the only way that you're trading Holliday is if you get a Peralta extension and you can sign Bo Bichette. Both players ended up going to the Mets. Bo Bichette to the Mets, and then Freddie Peralta to the Mets in that trade with them. So, and Tobias Myers, a really solid back end reliever for the Brewers. There's now with the Mets. And then you see Mackenzie Gore is traded from the Nationals to the Rangers. And
I would have loved Mackenzie Gore.
I wanted him so badly in this rotation because you have him under control for the next 2 years. You've got Bob. You have a starting rotation for the next 2 years that starts with Kyle Bradish and then goes Baz, Gore. Like, dude,
nasty.
It's stupid, right? But the haul that the Orioles gave up their haul to get Shane Baz. That's where all the best prospects they were willing to trade went to picking up Shane Baz. What they were never going to be able to match what the Rangers gave the Nationals for Mackenzie Gore. So now we're back to the reported best starter on the free agent market since day one, Framber Valdez, or your backup options, Zach Gallen and Justin Verlander. And a case can be made, Ryan, for all of these guys. But let's start with Framber. Why is Framber Valdez not a Baltimore Oriole right now?
I think it's the character concerns.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I mean, it was kind of magnified by, the incident that went viral where he seemingly intentionally crossed up his catcher, threw a fastball at his chest because he was mad about something from the previous at bat. And then, you saw a bunch of Astros fans who, the baseball world was shocked. Like, how can a pitcher do that to his catcher? Astros fans came out and were like, "But that's not really surprising."
Mm-hmm.
And, everything that it seems like we've heard, and I know, Zach, who does this show with you, has got some sources, and he knows people throughout the league. And apparently Framber hasn't interviewed exceptionally well, and I really think that that's what it comes down to, because he is the most talented pitcher on the market. He was from day one. I had him above Suarez. I had him above Dylan Cease. and there's a reason he's not on a team yet.
Mm-hmm.
And, I really think, and to answer your previous question, have the Orioles done enough for their rotation? I don't know if you can ever get to a point where you can reasonably say that a team has done enough for their rotation.
Unless you're
Going
the
into
Dodgers.
going into 2023, unless you're the Dodgers, going into 2023, but then you look at the Dodgers and they've got like 8 guys who would be a 3 at worst in any rotation.
Mm-hmm.
Going into, was it 2023, we were looking at Corbin Burns, Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish, John Means, Dean Kramer, with Tyler Wells in the mix. And then
Going into 2024.
24, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, because it was, the offseason after 23, the Orioles traded for Burns.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happened? Half those guys got hurt in spring training.
Mm-hmm.
So we have no idea if Kyle Bradish is in game shape. We have no idea if Tyler Wells is in game shape. Granted, Bradish and Wells both came back and pitched down the stretch, but you don't know if they're quite fully recovered yet. You don't know if they're at 100%. And you don't know. Maybe we come into spring training and Trevor Rogers has some kind of shoulder impingement and he's going to be on the shelf for the first month of the season. You never know. So to answer that question, do I like the current state of the Orioles rotation? Yes. Have they done enough? There's no way to say, because you don't know what's going to happen when guys are throwing their first bullpen of the year down in Sarasota here in a few weeks.
Right.
And so I think you have to go out, and it's not just the fact that guys can get hurt, right? It's the ripple effect. The Orioles have done well for the back end of the bullpen. I'm a big Ryan Helsley guy, and it's not just because we share a first name. I really like Andrew Kittredge.
It does help, though.
It does. I'm glad, although it didn't help with McKenna, but I digress.
You had to.
sorry to bring him up. Kittredge, I'm thrilled that he's back. But it's when you go out and think about acquiring another pitcher, whether it's via trade or whether you go out and get Fromber or you go out and get Gallen and or Verlander, it's the ripple effect that has for the bullpen. It allows you to comfortably keep Tyler Wells there, where I think he can thrive if he's healthy. It allows you to maybe put Dean Kramer there for the first month of the season, try to get some of those April woes out of the way as your long man. Mm-hmm. And then if an injury does happen, you slot him back in your rotation and you're happy with him there over the summer months. So not only is it a matter of making sure that the rotation is in good shape to go into the season, but also making sure that you have enough guys to field a solid bullpen. And I think that's, if the Orioles have a weakness right now, it's those fringe bullpen guys. Mm-hmm. You don't know if you can rely on them to give you a good 6th inning. Now, if you're able to get 6 or 7 from your starter, and then you're going to Kittredge and Helsley, and God, I hope Yennier Cano returns to somewhat of a decent form, then you're in pretty solid shape. But I do think the Orioles need to make at least one more acquisition, whether it's straight up for a bullpen guy or whether it's a starter, and then you have that ripple effect where, you have a little more depth that you can put in the rotation or the bullpen. So again, it all comes down to whether or not these guys are going to be able to stay healthy. But I do think that, you look at Bradish, Rogers, Boz, Eflin, Kramer, that's pretty solid. But you can always have more.
Yeah, I look at the Orioles rotation, and I said something similar to this last year, right after they signed Morton and Sagano. And I said, you look at the Orioles rotation 1 through 5, and they've got 5 guys who can pitch to a 3.5 ERA, or 5 guys who can pitch to a 4.5 ERA. And I was like, which rotate? And we got the latter and worse. Like Sagano was good his first month and a half, and he stunk the place out the rest of the year. Morton, we know what happened with Morton. When and then Cade Povich is just destined to be a reliever, because that's a dude that can get through a lineup unscathed once. When he gets to the lineup the second and third time, he gets ripped. So I like the fact that they have enough starters now that Povich can start the year in the bullpen, which is where I think it belongs anyway. I love the idea. We all know that Tyler Wells needs to be a reliever. That's the way you keep him healthy, and that's the way that you maximize his abilities. Because you let that dude go out there and eat for an inning or two at a time, and he's a game changer in the back end of your bullpen. What you said about Kramer is Kramer can touch the upper 90s. Again, if he only has to go out there for a little bit and let it eat. So I don't hate the idea of him starting the season in the bullpen for the first month or so, and then seeing like what if he can come back into the rotation. I think he hates that idea, and it's a really tough sell to move your team's inning pitch leader the last year back into the bullpen. That's a really hard sell for
I agree.
not just for Kramer, but for your fan base, because you have him, and then you have Boz at 161 innings, and everybody else falls well short, right? Now, getting back to, who could they bring in? One, I think if the Orioles had some, and I'm going to knock on wood when I say this, because I tend to jinx this team somehow. If I think the Orioles had any kind of injury concerns with their rotation, that like anything new that's cropped up, I think Valdez would be here already. I also think if the Orioles really wanted Valdez, he would be here already. I think they want Valdez, but only at their price.
Yeah.
Like, I think that, like, Pete Alonso, they were willing to go out of their comfort zone to make sure they got that back here. Shane Baz, they were willing to trade prospects that they probably weren't really keen on trading, because they knew it got a guy with an ace ceiling who's going to be under your team control for 3 years. And that's the kind of moves that you have to make your team better now and in the future. With Valdez, I think it's 100% the character issues, and I think it's how bad he was in August and September. And they're like, do we want you? Yeah. Do we want you for 6 years, $180 million? Hell no.
Right.
Hell no. So, and that's why he's still out there. The character issues, the reported not great interviews, and his asking price. And what is he, 33 years old? So
there's something like that, yeah.
So
early 30s.
With Valdez, if you can get him for 3 years, 100 and what would it be? Like 3 years, 100 and 3 years, 99 million, 100 million, 102 million, whatever it would be, 33, 34 million a year. You do that, and I think the Orioles would do that. But he's got to be willing, and you probably have to give him an opt-out after years 1 and 2. If he's going to sign that deal, because he's going to want to come out, dominate, and then be able to hit the free agent market again.
Yeah.
So I think that's how you get Valdez here. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, I think Valdez ends up here. And again, I'm going to knock on wood, because, but a lot of times I say this stuff, and then as soon as I say it, it's reported that Valdez signs with the Toronto Blue Jays or some crap like that. Like, I legitimately, I was texting with my buddy, and I said, no, I was on the golf course back in November, or November, December, and I said that it was a random 70-degree day, and I said to my buddy, I think Dylan Cease is going to be a Baltimore Oriole. I think he's going to sign with the Orioles sooner rather than later. And I said, now watch, just because I said that, he's going to go sign like a 7-year deal with the Blue Jays or something. Literally 4 hours later, he signs 7 years, $210 million with the Toronto Blue Jays. I texted my buddy. I was like, I even nailed the team that he was going to sign with. After, so like, but I think that Valdez ends up in Baltimore. I think it's going to be lower year, higher average annual value, and I think it's going to be an opt-out after years 1 and year 2. I just think that's what's going to happen. If it doesn't, the fallback options are Zach Gallen and Justin Verlander. We'll get into that in just a second. Just want to remind you that if you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Hall of Famer Rob Woodson, Mike Florio, and new Orioles bench coach Donnie Ecker, you can find that and more in the Glenn Clark Radio Weekend Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or right here on PressBox's Facebook and YouTube pages.
Can I say something about Glenn real quick? It's a good thing. I'm a 98 Rock guy when I'm driving into work in the morning, and Glenn has been. I'm not sure if he has some kind of regular employment with them or what, but he'll fill in and he'll do the sports every once in a while, and he nails it every time, man. It's always a treat when I hear Glenn on 98 Rock talking about the previous day's sports. He crushes it every time, man. He has such a good rapport with those JSS guys. So shout out to Glenn. He's killing it.
Yeah. So Glenn is with WBAL now. He and Rita are no longer with 105.7 The Fan. He told me why. It's not my business, not my place to put his business out there, but he is with WBAL now, and I'll tell you, man, for my money, Glenn Clark is the cream of the crop when it comes to a Baltimore sports radio personality. I hold Glenn, and it's not just because I work for him. It's not just because I work for PressBox. You know, Glenn, when I was Glenn's producer, full transparency, Glenn was hard on me. It was, I have a serious issue with being told what to do. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
and it's not that Glenn would tell me what to do, but like Glenn and I are basically the same age, and like he's earned the right to like host his own show and all that. And Glenn would be hard on me during the breaks and stuff like that. So it's like not to the point where like I hated him or anything like that, but like just so I can tell you that it's like it's not like I loved working for Glenn so much and I'm with PressBox and I'm going to talk him up. No, Glenn and I are close. We're good friends, and you know I can be honest and say that it was tough working with him sometimes because of my own ego. But then so you can know that when I tell you, Glenn is the cream of the crop when it comes to Baltimore sports personalities. You can take it to the bank. That dude is legitimate. I love hearing him on the radio. I was sad he left 105.7, but I'm glad he landed on his feet with WBAL. I'm glad he still has Glenn Clark Radio. Like, he's so good at what he does. So good at what he does. And I'm surprised he hasn't worn himself thin yet, though, because he does so much. He's everywhere. Yeah. But getting back to the task at hand, just gave Glenn I just gave Glenn a 5-minute shout out on the Methos or Methos 123. It sure looks like Elias is digging his own grave. Don't promise to get a top starter and bring in retreads like Bassett or Giolito. He hasn't dug his own grave yet. Remember that Corbin Burns didn't get traded to Baltimore until February of 2024. So let's pump the brakes there. I am a little irritated, as I posted on X a couple of days ago, that Gore is that everybody that has been linked to the Orioles as far as starting pitchers is now off the board, with the exception of Gallen, Fromber, and Verlander. I'm a little irritated about that, but I don't think they're bringing in a Chris Bassett or a Lucas Giolito. I don't think that they're going that route. He also says Valdez will go to the Giants, Yankees, or the Mets. When the O's go home early again, Elias should be fired immediately. I hate liars. If Valdez wanted to be in Baltimore, he would have signed already. Well, you don't know what the offer is, or if they even made an offer. Valdez is not worth $30 to $35 million per year. Rather, $20 to $25 million per year is more appropriate. And then you think Gallen and Verlander are the answer to this debacle. Really terrible joke. 43-year-old that should be retired. O's don't make postseason with these two clowns. All right, Met-Hose. Like, let's pump the brakes here. Let's pump the brakes here a little bit, because nobody's saying that we think that Gallen or Verlander are the answer. We're saying realistically, if Valdez does not come to Baltimore, those are your fallback options: Zach Gallen and Justin Verlander. Justin Verlander made 31 starts last year, pitched to a 3.85 ERA and a 2.99 ERA in the second half at age 42. The fastball still touches the mid-90s with Verlander. Verlander knows how to pitch. This ain't Charlie Morton 2.0 in Baltimore. At some point, he's going to hit that wall. And it looked like he had, in Houston the year before, and then it looked like he had the first half of the season in San Francisco. But he made 29 starts. 22 of his 29 starts, he allowed 3 earned runs or less. He went 6 innings or more 12 times. All 12 starts that he went 6 or more were quality starts. He allowed 2 earned runs or less, I think, something like 17 times last year.
Yeah.
Verlander, it's like when Mike Mussina won 20 games in his final season because he knew how to pitch. Justin Verlander knows how to pitch. He knows how to pitch. Not that Morton didn't, but Verlander, when you're comparing Verlander and Morton, you're comparing apples and oranges. One was just a really good number 3 at his best. The other guy was greatest of all time at his best. I mean, you're talking about a starting pitcher who won an MVP award. All right,
Mhm.
those dudes don't come around that often. So, do I want a 43-year-old Justin Verlander in my rotation? No, frankly, I don't. I don't want it to be the team that he hits that proverbial wall with. I don't want that to be the case. But if you could do a whole lot worse than bringing in Justin Verlander to help mentor, to be a guy in your rotation, to be who he would be a number 5 and help mentor guys like Bradish and Shane Baz and Trevor Rogers to a certain extent. Like, you could do a whole hell of a lot worse than that. Now let's move to Zach Gallen. Okay, Zach Gallen was a Cy Young caliber pitcher from 2020 to 2023, 2024-ish. Last year, he was not good. He was okay. People had to tell me he was elite down the stretch. In his final 10 starts, he gave up 3+ runs 5 times, but he also gave up less than 3 runs the other 5 times and a couple of shutouts thrown in there. You look at, he had thrown the most innings of his career in 2023. Then 2024 fell back a little bit. I think there were some injuries in there. And then he had to go out and be that dog again. He threw 192 innings last year. I don't think after throwing 140 something the year before that, I think it was more fatigue because the spin rate's a little low. He lost a little bit of movement on his curveball last year, but I think that Gallen just had that arm fatigue. I think his arm was getting used to being built back up to being that workhorse again. He would be a very short term, lesser money option. He's a cheaper option for the Orioles, and he's a guy who maybe it's a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, but an opt out after year 1, where it's like a make good contract for him. I don't see him getting. Maybe he gets 18, 20 million. He's not going to command 25, 30 million. Just like Verlander, maybe 15 million, more probably in that 12 to 15 million dollar range. These are cheaper fallback options. I still think that the course of action for this club is Framber Valdez, and if you don't get him, then you fall back to one of those guys. Also, think about the fact that no matter who you bring in, you now have 7 starters that should be in your 5-man rotation. And if they're all healthy, who are you telling to move to the bullpen? You have 7 starters for 5 spots who all have legitimate claims to be in your starting. This ain't like your 6 and 7 starters are Brandon Young and Cade Povich. No,
Right.
they're Dean Kramer and Justin Verlander, or Dean Kramer and Zach Gallen, or Dean Kramer and Zach Eflin. Like
That's why, and I get your point about how could you sell Dean Kramer about going to the bullpen, but that's why I brought it up, is like there's gonna be an odd man out if they acquire another starter or two. There's gonna be, and is Kramer very well might be that guy. I think you're more likely to put someone like Kramer in the bullpen than someone like Zach Eflin. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, yeah. Look, you look at what Zach Gallen has been able to do. And people talk about Zach Gallen like he's 35 and on the decline. He's coming off a bad season. He's going to be 31 in August.
Right.
This is still a guy who can very well be a legitimate piece in your rotation. I mean, before last season, yeah, he had a 483 last year. But like you said, he was being built back up, and maybe a little bit of arm fatigue came into play. The 3 years before that was a 365, a 347, and a 254. And 2 of those years were top 5 Cy Young finishes. This isn't a guy who's over the hill and on the decline. This is a guy who needs a bounce back opportunity. And to be honest, if Fromber ends up going elsewhere, I'm cool with Gallen, man. I would like to have him as your 4 because he could be your 2.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be. Zach Gallen's not on the same playing field as a Chris Bassett or a Lucas Giolito. He is,
No.
in my opinion, worlds more talented.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And look, I mean, I know that wins are more of a team stat. They don't hold as much weight as they used to. You still have to get to 5, 6, 7 innings to pick up wins. And his last 4 years, even last year, 12, 17, 14, 13, and you're having him come in and asking him to be your number 4, like, or your number 5. I'd take 14 wins and a 3.65 ERA for my number 5 starter.
Absolutely.
And I'm just, at first I said if the Orioles end up with Zach Gallen, something went wrong this offseason. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, he's 30 years old. He's going to play most of the season 30 years old. Like, you can't convince me the 30-year-old just lost it. Not when you have a 43-year-old who you're also talking to. Like, you just can't convince. And the other guy is 30. And Framber is 33, and you're talking about giving him $30 million a year. I don't know that he's lost it. I think that he went from 148 innings to 192 innings. He had a 44 inning increase last year, and he was also not supposed to be that top dude. That was supposed to be Corbin Burns, and then he got hurt.
Yeah.
So then he had to step into that role, and they're coming off of, they went to the World Series in 23. They just narrowly missed the playoffs in 2024. Like they screwed the pooch down the stretch in 24. And so there's also a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure that Corbin Burns is an ace that we brought in. He just had to have Tommy John surgery. And now I got to be this guy. I got to be that guy and get this team back to where they're supposed to be. Not that I don't know that you can sit there and you can say, oh, well, that means he's a head case and he can't handle the pressure. I just don't think that we should be writing off Zach Gallen yet. I also don't think that we should be resigning ourselves to the fact that Zach Gallen's the guy.
Right.
Ryan and I are basically just saying, if he ends up being the guy, there's a reason for it, and not because the Orioles are trying to be cheap. I don't think that they're trying to be cheap. I think it's that they don't love the idea of having Framber in their clubhouse. I think that's what it comes down to. But they'll do it because they know that he helps them become a World Series contender, but the money's got to be right. With a guy like Zach Gallen, it's like, look, we think that we can get him back to where he was, and he's going to cost us less money. Like let's make a push for it. So you can make a legitimate argument for any of the guys remaining. People talk about Pablo Lopez or Joe Ryan. I know the Twins don't want to trade those guys. I think they have no plans on trading either one of those guys. So I don't know who else you go for if it's not the 3 that we just spent 10 minutes talking about. Now, look, was Shane Baz on anybody's radar? Nope. Just because we don't know who these guys, who somebody might be that the Orioles might trade for, doesn't mean that dude's not. And somebody also said to me, Hunter Green. The Reds have no.
I can't see the Reds doing it.
Why would they do it? They just made the playoffs last year. They've got a young roster filled with controllable talent, and Hunter Green is at the forefront of that as their ace, who's under team control for several more years. They have, and with Terry Francona, who's not managing your ball club if you're not trying to win. Why on earth would the Reds trade you Hunter Green? And furthermore, what in the hell could you possibly give them to get him?
Right.
Let's be realistic about Hunter Green. So I do not believe the Orioles are done adding to this rotation. I have no idea who it's going to be. I'm inclined to believe that it's going to be Framber Valdez because he's just been linked to them the entire offseason. It was down to them and the Mets. The Mets traded for Peralta, and so and then you also knew that Bellinger was making a decision that did not include the Mets when they traded for Luis Robert. Right, the things that the Mets are doing are showing their hand. The fact that they traded for Peralta, I don't believe, knock on wood, because now as soon as it ends, it'll be like New York Mets, Framber Valdez, an agreement on a 5-year deal, right? But
I wouldn't put anything past Steve Cohen.
Yeah, but I don't believe that the Mets are Anibal Valdez anymore. I just don't. So I think it's the Orioles for Valdez, lower money. I mean lower years, higher average annual value. We'll see what comes with that. AJ, Good morning, peeps. Do any of the Reds pitchers besides Green, because let's face it, they ain't trading Green, interest you? I don't know enough about the Reds rotation. What about you, Ryan?
I mean, Lodolo could be intriguing. I wouldn't hate that. He's certainly not going to command as much of a return as Hunter Green. Um, Andrew Abbott, another guy who has been very, very good for them. I don't see the Reds moving any of those big three. I mean, it's Green, Lodolo, and Abbott for me. I really, really like Andrew Abbott. I would love to have him in the Orioles rotation. I don't see any reason why the Reds would move him at this point for the same reasons that you just said they shouldn't be trading Hunter Green. They've got Terry Francona at the helm of a talented young team, similar to the Orioles of a couple years ago. A lot of guys who have a potential that they could conceivably reach. You look at guys like Spencer Steer, Noelvi Marte. They have talented guys on that team. I don't see them trading from a point of or from a position of um, excess, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, I mean, Lodolo and Abbott would both interest me. I just don't see it as a fit right now from the
Yeah,
Red side of things.
I don't know why. I mean, they have a rotation full of guys in their mid to late 20s who are really good, and they have 4 starters last year who made at least 26 starts. I don't know why they'd be in a hurry to trade any of their starting pitchers. I think they'd be wanting to add. Because
Who's
the
the
weak
fourth
link.
I'm missing? Was that like Nick Martinez or something?
So you have Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, Nick Martinez, Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green, and then Zach Littell also made 10 starts, but I don't think he's still there.
That I don't know. I forgot they had Brady Singer too, but I'm not. I
Yeah,
mean,
they made that
he's
they made that
fine.
trade with the Orioles, right? Zach Littell is he a free agent right now? Yeah, Zach Littell's a free agent. But he made 32 starts in 2025 between the Rays and the Reds, 186 and 2/3 innings pitched, 3.81 ERA for Zach Littell for the full season last year.
That's not too shabby.
Yeah, he was really good last year. Like it made 10 starts with the Reds. I mean, you look at Littell the last 2 years, he's made 61 combined starts. He's put up a 6 WAR between those 2 seasons. He's
Dude,
thrown
the Rays
18 wins, 6 WAR, 343 innings pitched, and a 3.73 ERA. And he's 30 years old this year. Nobody's talking about Zach Littell. Like, look, you can't convince me that you're not going to convince anybody that Zach Littell is the move. But
yeah,
looking at those numbers, would you really be like upset
disappointed.
if guy who just threw 186 and 2/3 with a 3.81 last year and a 3.2 WAR, if that guy ends up in your rotation? It's
No.
not it's not that sparkly shiny toy, but it's a legitimate big league starting pitcher. It's a starting pitcher who frankly was better than Kramer and better than Eflin, who probably slots in number 4 now behind Boss in your rotation. Not saying that they should go out and sign Littell, but more so, I guess it's saying you can you can make an argument for a lot of different names out there, and Zach Littell's got to be we weren't even thinking about.
Yeah.
All right. AJ says, "Sweet hat, Paul." Yeah, this is a cool hat. I don't like the one with the gray with the bird. I don't like that. I do like that they moved to the City Connect B, but it's orange with the orange bill. I like that hat.
I do like that.
I don't like that it costs $50.
Yeah.
I don't like it. That's AJ says the Giants are in on Fromber for sure. Deet. Love that these are the OGs with this show coming in here. Could the Verlander interest be partly from his side? He's from Northern Virginia and probably wants to play closer to home before he retires. Maybe. And I do believe that the Orioles have spoken to his team. We don't, if there's interest could have been a phone call from Mike Elias, just simply calling his agent like, hey, if we aren't able to get these guys, does Justin want to come pitch in Baltimore? Would he have any interest in pitching in Baltimore? And that could have been the basis of the entire conversation. It's going to take it 30 seconds. He asked, would he have any interest in pitching in Baltimore? Don't even talk numbers, and that's it. You know, somebody came out, and a former executive, I can't remember who it was, a few years back, they came out and they said, when you hear that teams have interest in this guy or that guy, a lot of times that interest is, hey, would he sign here? No? Okay. That was the call. Like, that's it. So because they made a phone call or asked a question of the agent, that is relayed as interest.
You think Kate Upton has any say in where Verlander signs?
Are they married? Yeah.
Yeah,
She absolutely has a say. It's probably her decision at this point.
probably.
So he ends up in Miami. With Seattle come off starting pitching for big league level talent, Cowser, Mayo, Beavers with a Bateman-ish level lower tier attached. No.
Oh God, Boston. I saw Bateman. I went to Rashad.
Yeah,
Boston Bateman.
it took me a second too, but no, because the Mariners have said from the very beginning of this offseason that they have no interest in trading any of their starting pitchers, and it's because the Mariners aren't going to pay anybody. Like, I know that they just paid what's the ugly dude who played with Cleveland and Arizona that got traded to them? He has Naylor. They paid Josh Naylor. They gave him 5 years, $100 million, like legitimately in that 5-day window when you negotiate with your own free agents. But like, they didn't bring back Eugenio Suarez. They locked up Julio Rodriguez to a big deal, but still it's team friendly for the talent that he is. And they got Cal Raleigh. Like, they think that their offense, where it is right now, combined with an elite starting rotation, that they don't have, like, that's cheap for them. Like, all those guys are under team control, while they have no desire to trade any of their starting pitchers right now. Otherwise, we would have been talking about linking up with them for a trade all off season.
Where's our old commenter friend from back when I was doing this regularly with you, who every week was like, trade Mountcastle for Logan Gilbert? Where is he? Does he still pop up in the comments?
I think that's Met Hose.
Is it?
I think it is
because
he has the same profile picture as the other guy did. So I think it's the same guy. But I could be wrong. Let's see. AJ. I would love Zach Gallen and Justin Verlander. And so the Orioles would have 6 starters for 5 rotation spots if they were to bring in one more guy. Somebody had, I think Ryan Ripken was doing a show, and they were like, should the Orioles bring in Verlander and Gallen? And it's like, well, and Ryan was saying that they can't afford to do that. They can absolutely afford to do that. They can 100% afford to do that. But then you're giving yourself 7 starters for 5 spots, and all 7 starters legitimately should be in a big league rotation. So, like, I don't see how you are able to sign both of those guys. And maybe that's not what you're saying. You maybe you're saying you would love Zach Gallen or Justin Verlander, but there's not space to bring in 7 guys that should be in a big league rotation.
Yeah.
One of them won't sign because they can look at that and plainly see it.
Yeah.
AJ, is Harrison Bader an upgrade over Colton Cowser? So Colton Cowser's dad, Dale, follows me for whatever reason on social media. And
he might follow me too. I don't know for sure.
I'm pretty sure he had blocked me at one point, but now he follows me. And I put up a post because the people that really hate me on Twitter, like the people that like really hate me and call me out and tell me I have shit takes and all that, like, they can be kind of brutal. They end up getting blocked by me because I don't know why you ever need to take it to a level where you're insulting somebody and calling them names. We're grown men. But so I posted, I was like, the people that don't like me think I have these shit takes. Aside from me being nervous about Corbin Burns and when he was really bad in spring training, what take have I had that has been like me wanting my desires for certain players? That's not a take. That's a personal desire for a player to be on the Orioles team. So a take that I've done, aside from that Burns one, what have I really said that's been that outlandish or that crappy of a take? I'm pretty spot on, I feel like. And somebody said that I was a little early on the hate for Hyde, but that I was ultimately right. And they said that my hatred for Willie Adames was a little over the top. And then they also said that me kind of going after the pasture. And it wasn't. And so I started talking about how I explained the Dominus hate is more of the hate for the Brewers ownership for making a guy who I thought was a decent but not great player, and him being the difference maker, and it just allows them to think that they don't have to spend money on their roster. That's Orioles PTSD. The Brandon Hyde, I watched him single-handedly keep the Orioles out of the playoffs in 2022, and then saw him do nothing to put them in the playoffs, even though they made the playoffs the next 2 years. I don't think it was because of him. And then I said, you know, that my feelings, like, I wanted to like Brandon Hyde, and I was looking for reasons to like Brandon Hyde, and he never gave me a reason to. And then I said, it's kind of like Colton Cowser. Nobody wants Colton Cowser to succeed more than I do. I get, but he is a guy who was he was a fifth overall pick in a major league draft. He's not worthy of that pick to this point in his career. And I think I get so irritated because I look at a guy and I see a guy, I look at this guy and I see somebody that's capable of hitting 260 with 30 plus bombs, but it's not what he is. And it's just infuriating because you just want to scream at him, dude, you are better than this. Get out of your head. And Dale Cowser liked that post that I put up yesterday, which I thought was weird. I don't know if it was he thinks that my son has a lot of talent and it's just, hasn't reached it yet. Or I'm going to like this because you're an asshole.
He's logging that one for later.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a long, drawn-out story to say, no, Harrison Bader isn't an upgrade as far as potential. You know who Harrison Bader is. Harrison Bader, who is a guy who in his best years playing about 270 with 15 to 18 home runs, and he's going to play really good defense for you in center field. Colton Cowser's ceiling far exceeds anything that Harrison Bader has ever been capable of. Colton Cowser's ceiling is, like I said, 260, 30-plus home runs. He's smacking 40 doubles and stealing close to 20 bags. But he's not a center fielder. He can play center field, but he shouldn't be out there every day. Colton Cowser should be in left field, but you just traded a guy with 4 years of team control from your starting rotation to bring in Taylor Ward, who plays left field. And there's another thing in that I have in the notes for today. This roster doesn't make any sense right now, which is also why I think a trade is coming. Because you've got, but just to answer this question, Harrison Bader is an upgrade defensively, and his bat is serviceable enough that you're not pissed off that he's in the lineup. Unless Colton Cowser comes out and hits 260 with 30-plus home runs, and you're like, why is Bader ever playing over Cowser?
Yeah.
Kind of like, why is Arias ever playing over Westberg? One of those types of situations. The player himself is good, but not better than the person that he's playing over. So yeah, do you want to get a live reading here real quick? Today's show is brought to you by Live Casino. Live Casino and Hotel is giving away a trip to the Winter Games, and you can win your share of $50,000. But today is the final day of the contest. You have to get to Live Casino by 4 p.m. to register. You'll find out more at livech.com. That's livech.com. You have till 4 p.m. today to register, to put yourself in the running to win a trip to the Winter Games and win your share of $50,000. This roster doesn't make sense because last year the Orioles were fundamentally bad. Their defense was terrible. They made boneheaded plays night after night, thrown to the wrong base, overthrowing the cutoff man, terrible throws that go over the catcher's head or go 25 feet up the line. The Orioles defensively were very bad last year. And now you're moving your starting left fielder, who's a good defender, to center field. You're moving a bad defender that hit 36 home runs last year to left field. You've got Tyler O'Neill and Dylan Beavers platooning in right field. Beavers was an adventure in the outfield for the Orioles last year when he was up, and Tyler O'Neill can't stay on the field. Then you've got Pete Alonso at first base, picks more balls by a wide margin than the next best first baseman in that category, but can't go to his right to save his life. He's like Zoolander couldn't turn left, right? Pete Alonso has terrible range to his right. And Jackson Holliday still has not figured it out at second base. Like, he's fine, but he's not he looks off balance on every ground ball that he fields at second base. He looks like he's on his heels on every ground ball at second base. So like defensively, are the Orioles good enough? And it starts with the outfield. And that's why this roster doesn't make sense, because really Taylor Ward should be DHing for you. Like, he should be DHing for you. I hate DHing your catcher and playing your backup catcher, and then DHing your backup catcher and playing your starting catcher. I think that's like really bad usage of your roster. Taylor Ward should be on a team that has World Series aspirations, should be DHing, playing left field, maybe 50, 60 times throughout the season. And when he does, there should be a defensive replacement if you don't use bat late in the game. And Colton Cowser should be playing in left field, and Dylan Beavers should be playing every day in right field to learn to get better at the position and learn how to hit left-handed pitching. I don't know Craig Albert's managing style, but I don't think there's a manager in baseball that's just going to say, all right, Beavers, you're our everyday right fielder when we have Tyler O'Neill on the roster. You have, and then you've also looked at the fact you have Kobe Mayo and you've got Ryan Mountcastle. They both play first base and nothing else. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys who should be DHing regularly for you, or could be DHing regularly for you. When you look at Ward, O'Neill, Mayo, Mountcastle, Rutschman, and beside that's 6 guys.
Alonso, maybe.
Yeah, and maybe Alonso. And that's why. Oh my gosh, that's why I wanted Cody Bellinger, because Cody Bellinger, he plays in center field every day for you, where he's an above-average defender. He can spell Alonso at first base and allow Alonso to DH early in the year so that his legs are under him in the second half of the seasons for your playoff push. It allows you to trade Mayo and Mountcastle, and then you don't have, and it allows you to deploy Colton Cowser as a defensive replacement in left field, as a fourth outfielder, as a guy who you can bring in fastball situations so he's not exposed against off speed. The signing Bellinger makes so much sense for this team. I've been screaming it from a friggin' mountaintop since 2022. And he's back with the Yankees, 5 years, $162 million. Like, the people that were telling me Bellinger doesn't make sense for this team, where does he play ball? Like, I hate when people say you don't know ball, because it's like you're telling me that you do. But if you can't understand why Bellinger was the perfect fit for this team and why I was banging that drum for months, years on end, you don't know ball, because it makes so much sense for him to be here. The domino effect of Bellinger being here, it is insane. I understand the Orioles didn't want to go that route. It was a pipe dream. I never actually fully believed that Bellinger would be here, but their roster right now just doesn't make sense, Ryan. It makes no sense to me with the guys that they have. I cannot believe that Mayo and Mountcastle are still here, and that they're going into the season planning to DH, planning to play both their catchers practically every day.
Yeah, it's certainly a strange roster construction. I mean, I thought for certain that Mountcastle was going to end up non-tendered, and then when they did tender him a contract, I was like, all right, well, they're going to try to trade him. And you said it earlier, Corbin Burnes was acquired in February. There's still a lot of offseason left. It might not feel like it because pitchers and catchers report here in 3 weeks now, but there is still a lot of offseason left, and a lot of things can still happen. Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I don't really have much to add, in the sense that, you're talking about getting both Rutschman and Basayo just about everyday plate appearances. You still have 2 first basemen after signing Pete Alonso. Mayo probably more deserving of a little bit of a leash of playing time because of what we saw him do in September of last year, where it looked like he was finally coming into his own. I want Kobe Mayo getting at bats, but where are they? If Basayo's your DH, or if, Cowser and Ward are going to be kind of platooning defensively and Ward might get a little DH time, or if Alonso's playing a little bit of DH so that Mayo or Mountcastle can get some plate appearances at first base. There's a lot of guys who play very similar positions and are very similar styles of hitter that you got to think there's another move coming, because you're not going to go into the season with 2 first basemen on your bench. That's just not going to happen. It doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense. And I know Mountcastle was drafted as a shortstop, but you're not putting him back there. You tried him in left field. He wasn't good out there. Kobe Mayo, maybe his long-term position is corner outfield, but you've got Taylor Ward, Tyler O'Neill, and Dylan Beavers. And, yeah, it's confusing to look at this roster and think that, the biggest thing for me is how do you go into opening day with Alonso, Mayo, and Mountcastle with the platoon of Adley Rutschman and Samuel Basayo behind the plate, one of whom is going to be your DH most nights. And maybe Basayo's going to get some time at first base.
Mhm.
Like, it's weird and it doesn't make sense. And I'm excited to see how things materialize over the next few weeks and into spring training. But where do you play all these guys? You gotta think there's another move coming.
I think that Taylor Ward is the only outfielder whose job is safe right now. Because
I don't disagree.
You just traded for him. You can make a legitimate case for trading Kowser, Beavers, or O'Neill. O'Neill would have to be a salary dump because he opted in. So you're paying him $16.9 million each of the next 2 years. So you would basically be salary dumping, trading O'Neill to get him. It's not even a salary dump because you're still paying him. So you're legitimately just paying him to not be here, to get him off your roster, to give you more roster flexibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, but
and you could conceivably get the team to eat a little bit of the money, but your point remains.
Beavers and Kowser, Beavers hasn't shown that he can hit left-handed pitching yet. Not in the minors, not at the big league level. The on-base percentage is great. The amount of walks, I think he led baseball in walks from his promotion to the end of the season. So and that looked good, and his bat will play. He's only going to get better. Kowser is just so he can carry your team offensively for a week to 10 days, and then he'll go ice cold for a month and a half. And he strikes out 40% of the time. But he did finish second in Rookie of the Year voting 2 years ago. He's got light tower power. He's got a cannon for an arm, but he just lacks the accuracy. And he can play all three outfield positions. He's a good outfielder, right? And he's still got 4 or 5 years of team control left. You can conceivably trade any outfielder aside from Taylor Ward, because why would you trade the guy that you just traded Grayson Rodriguez for? Right?
Yeah.
And then maybe if you trade one of those outfielders, then you can start putting Mayo in the outfield. The fact that they're only just now talking about putting Mayo in the outfield blows my mind, because he can't play third base. He's blocked at first base, and he's got a 70 grade arm. Put him in a corner outfield spot, and when he starts hitting 30 to 40 home runs a year, now you've got a legitimate corner outfielder with a cannon for an arm. Kobe Mayo screams, "I'm a right fielder." He just
Kobe Mayo should be at Camden Yards right now playing caroms off the out-of-town scoreboard.
He should be doing it through the snowstorm.
Yeah.
Just so we've seen it snow on opening day in Camden Yards.
Yeah.
Once
Jay Gibbons found the ball, he made a halfway decent play.
Right.
Thinking back to that Ellis Burks triple. I got home from school just in time to see that play. It was hilarious.
Dude, that ball, the way it was rolling, you knew it landed in the stands in foul territory and bounced back onto the field. The way it was rolling, how does the ball roll in a straight line from the right field foul line to the center field if it didn't hit off of something in foul territory?
Yeah.
Unless
it was like a weird, grounds crew door angled wall type deal, but yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Yeah, and
we don't need to go off on that big of a tangent.
He didn't hit it well enough for it to reach that groundskeeper door.
That's true.
That's the other thing. Okay, Ryan, we're bringing back a segment specifically for you.
Yeah, baby.
Soft toss with Ryan Blake. Why are all the mock-up? Ryan wants to know why all the mock-up lineups that he's been seeing has Jackson Holliday at the top of the order. Ryan, you are on. Go.
Well, I'll tell you why that's what we're seeing. It's because Jackson Holliday was our leadoff hitter for the majority of last year. The Orioles didn't win a lot of baseball games last year. Now, you look at this lineup construction. Do I believe that Jackson Holliday can be a productive leadoff hitter? Absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, but he's not that guy yet. He had a 690 something OPS last year. On base hovered just over 300, I believe. Gunnar Henderson needs to be your leadoff hitter with the bats you have in this lineup. At lowest, Gunnar Henderson needs to be your number 2. Now, you look at a mock lineup, most of them have Jackson Holliday leading off, and then it's either Jordan Westberg or Taylor Ward or Adley Rutschman, and then it's Gunnar, and then it's Pete Alonso. Can you look me in the face and tell me that over the course of the year, you want Jackson Holliday to have 45 more plate appearances than Gunnar Henderson and 70 more plate appearances than Pete Alonso? It does. Gone are the days of hitting your best hitter third, in my opinion. Now, there are certain lineups where it makes a little bit of sense to do that. You have guys without a lot of pop but high on base hitting at the top of the order, and then your best hitter has more RBI opportunities. Guess what? Opportunities to score runs are just important as opportunities to drive them in. Gunnar Henderson, with the exception of the 2 guys who had a higher on base, and I'm not counting Dylan Beavers because it was a small sample size, the 2 guys who led your team with on base percentage last year were Ryan O'Hearn and Ramon Laureano. Those guys are now gone. Mm-hmm. Aside from those 2, Gunnar Henderson at 349 was your highest on base percentage guy. That is the guy I want taking the majority of my team's at bats. The other luxury that the Orioles have is that the bottom of their lineup is looking like it's going to be pretty solid. So, why is an RBI opportunity in the first inning, if one of your first 2 hitters gets on base, why is that more important than an RBI opportunity where maybe your number 9 hitter, Jackson Holliday, gets on base, and now Gunnar Henderson has an opportunity to drive him in the 3rd inning? And then you run into the 9th inning. If Gunnar's hitting first, he's probably hitting in the 9th inning more often than the number 3 hitter. I want Gunnar Henderson getting as many at-bats as possible, even if he's a 40-homer guy. Even if that is the case. Because the way the Orioles lineup is constructed and the talent they have from 1 through 9, there are going to be plenty of opportunities for RBIs out of the leadoff spot. You can't just look at the first inning and say, if one of our first 2 guys gets on base, I want my best hitter up. Well, what if your best hitter leads off and he's on base most of the time? Then you got Pete Alonso, and you've got Jordan Westberg, and you've got Taylor Ward. Maybe Big Sam Basayo plays his way into the top half of the order. Then you got those guys hitting behind Gunnar Henderson, and they have an opportunity to drive him in. Mm-hmm. And not only is Gunnar going to get on base more than any of those other guys, he's going to steal more bags than any of those other guys.
Stole 30 bags this year.
Yeah. So the opportunities to win games, that Gunnar Henderson needs to be taking the majority of your plate appearances because he's going to get on base. He's going to have opportunities to drive runs in. He's going to create his own runs on the base paths, and he's going to have boppers behind him able to drive him in. So I want Gunnar leading off. I want probably Westberg hitting 2, and I want Alonso no lower than 3. That's my preference.
I've got to disagree with you.
Alonso 4 I could live with.
No. Wherever Gunnar hits, Alonso needs to be directly behind him.
You know what? I'm not gonna argue with that. Gunnar 1, Alonso 2, sign me up.
If you're batting Gunnar 1 and Alonso 2, you can't pitch around Gunnar in any situation. Same if you have Gunnar 3 and Alonso 4. You cannot pitch around Gunnar to get to Alonso. If both those guys get 650 to 700 bats this season, they're both hitting more than 40 home runs. How many games are starting 2-0?
Right.
How many games are starting 2-0 with Gunnar and Alonso batting 1-2? And then you put Westberg 3, you put Ward 4, probably to start Rutschman 5, Cowser 6, maybe it's Beavers 7, Basayo 8, or maybe it's Basayo 7, Beavers 8, Holiday 9. Your lineup, top to bottom, you're not like anybody that comes up, you're like, oh, here we go. You know, I hate to say, I'm not trying to hate on the guy. Cowser maybe, because if it's a situation where he's not going to see a fastball, he's not going to see a fastball with guys on base. He just isn't.
Yeah.
You know, and so like wherever Gunnar hits, and I agree with you. You're actually the one who sold me. Well, I thought that it should be Gunnar 3, Alonso 4, right after signing Alonso, and you and I were talking on X, and you were like, I gotta have Gunnar leading off, getting more at bats than anybody else on the team. I was like, I get that, especially if you got Alonso batting second behind him. You have an opportunity to start 30-year games 2-0, but maybe more than that.
Yeah.
Like
Now,
like
I do want to make one other point related to that. Holiday very well could play his way into being a leadoff guy, and then you can bump Gunner and Pete down a spot, and that's fine. I think if you're going to lead off somebody that's not Gunnar Henderson, I think to start the year it has to be Jordan Westberg, because I do believe that if he's healthy and seeing the ball well, he's going to give you a 350, 360 on base. I'd be okay with Westberg leading off, and then you've got Gunnar and Alonso, and then you're splitting up two righties right there. Because the other way to look at it too is outside of Gunnar Henderson, who again I firmly believe should be leading off, number 2 at the worst. Then your boppers are all righties. If you're counting Westberg as a bopper, you got Taylor Ward and you got Pete Alonso. There are a lot of left-handed bats in that lineup that you could stand to use to split those guys up. But I'm not hitting Cowser between them. I'm not hitting Basayo between them yet. I'm not hitting Beavers between them. I'm not hitting Adley between them. The only argument there is Gunnar. And if you're going to put Gunnar between them, put them between Westberg and Alonso at the top of the lineup. I would love to see someone else play their way into the leadoff role, because I do think Gunnar is well suited to be a number 2 or number 3 hitter. But the way the roster is right now, I want Gunnar leading off.
I saw something today. I think it was from Charm City Entertainment. Top 10 in offensive WAR in baseball this past year. Gunnar was like 5th.
And he had a down year.
He had
by
17 home runs. He had 17 home runs this past season. We found out he had a shoulder impingement all year. He hurt his shoulder on a dive early in the season, and that he said that he couldn't get his swing on the plane that he needed it to be on, and that's why his power was sapped. But he's fully healthy now.
I remember that play too. I remember seeing him fall weird on a dive, and he seemed to be favoring his shoulder, and I was like, oh, he's gonna, because he had a shoulder issue in the spring, and that's why he wasn't quite ready for opening day.
It was an oblique. It was
oblique. That's right.
Intercostal strain in the spring.
So okay, I remember what happened. So yeah, because we saw that play in spring as well. He was trying to make a jumping catch at shortstop.
Yeah.
And he hurt his oblique. And then I remember seeing it like an awkward dive early in the season where he came up and was kind of, doing a little bit of this, where it looked like he was either stretching his oblique or trying to, flex his shoulder a little bit. And I thought he was going to be taken out of the game and put on the IL. He seemed fine after that. But then, we find out a couple weeks ago he was playing with a bum shoulder all season. And he still was, like you said, top 5 in offensive WAR.
5.6 WAR with a shoulder impingement in a season where he only had 17 home runs. I mean, when you look at Gunnar's game, with the exception of power and RBIs, and with dropping 20 home runs, you're going to drop, go from 98 RBI down to 68 RBI, right? Like with Gunnar's game, though, as an overall hitter, and as a defender, he took massive steps forward this past season, right? So now add on to that the power potentially coming back. Dude, he's not going to win MVP because he plays in the same league as Aaron Judge. But he's going to be an MVP candidate this year. The number 1 reason is because he's Gunnar Henderson. The number 2 reason is because Pete Alonso's here.
Yeah.
Like you guys watch. Gunnar Henderson is going to start the All-Star game at shortstop. He's going to hit 40 home runs this year, assuming he stays healthy and doesn't mess up his shoulder again. And he's going to be a top 3 finalist for the MVP. Gunnar Henderson is going to have a monster season, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that the polar bear is hitting right behind him.
Yeah. And if I can make one final point for this soft toss, and to piggyback off of everything you were just saying, if he hits leadoff, he's scoring 115 runs at least.
Absolutely.
And that is just as valuable as having an opportunity to drive them in, is being able to get on and do it yourself.
We are very confident in the Orioles offense. I was very confident in the Orioles offense last year. They come out on opening day and hit 6 home runs and score 12 runs. And you're like, like, oh my gosh, top to bottom, they're amazing. And you find out nobody on the team can hit left-handed pitching. I didn't put it in the notes, but are you concerned that they haven't done enough to hit to fix their woes against left-handed pitching? Because there was like 3 guys that hit better than 224 against left-handed pitching. This roster, as it's currently constructed, there's like 3 guys on your roster that play every day that hit better than 224 against left-handed pitching last year.
You know who would have been helpful with our woes against left-handed pitching and our ability to split up the 2 righties in Alonso and Ward? Cody Bellinger.
Yup. I knew you were going to say.
Yeah.
Like, it's not – Kyle Tucker is the better overall player. But he plays right field. He plays right field. Cody Bellinger plays all 3 outfield positions. He plays first base. He plays all of those positions above average. He's a left-handed bat whose swing is tailor-made for Camden Yards. And, oh, by the way, he hits left-handed pitching. It makes so – and he allows you to trade players. It made so much sense. And if they didn't even check in, that is the most egregious malfeasance of the offseason. If they didn't even check in on Cody Bellinger. The most and when I have guys like Rob Long and Jeremy Kahn and Zach Moore agreeing with me, saying the same thing that I'm saying, I know I'm right. I know I'm right. There's not a person on the planet that will convince me that it was a stupid or bad take. Cody Bellinger was even more so than Pete Alonso. Cody Bellinger was the perfect free agent fit offensively and defensively, frankly, for this team. He was the perfect fit. And if they didn't even check in on him, that's going to piss me off more than anything else that they do or don't do this offseason. I can't talk about it anymore. I said I was done banging that drum.
He's a Yankee for 5 years. We got to get it out of our heads.
There's not doubt after year 2.
That's true.
There's not doubt after year 2. And maybe year 2, they don't play baseball. So maybe it's just one season of Cody Bellinger with the Yankees. Maybe. But I was having a really great, it's going to sound weird, a really great baseball conversation with ChatGPT a few years ago. Dude, it's the best $20 a month I spend on anything is paying for ChatGPT. And I was talking about like consolidate, because I can be really long-winded consolidating my points for a show. It was back on January 2nd because we had a show the next day and I was trying to consolidate all my points because I was like scatterbrained, wanted to say way too much. And I ended up talking about Cody Bellinger's fit here and its impact on Kowser, and like he just made so much sense. He just made so much sense coming here. And like, oh, but the whole point of that is I was talking to ChatGPT and I was like, how are the Yankees? They have one player that really scares you right now, and that's Aaron Judge. And Giancarlo Stanton, if he can stay healthy, he had 24 home runs in 77 games. That's bananas. I was like, but it's really Aaron Judge and then everybody else. And Anthony Volpe sucks. Like, Jason Dominguez ain't the guy that they thought he was going to be. Goldschmidt's gone. If Bellinger doesn't come back, and now the Bellinger's there. But they basically made the argument, and it makes sense. You have to have – you don't have a singer on your team that's going to give you an 11 WAR season. Aaron Judge does that by himself. So you need 2, maybe even 3 players that combined give you what Judge does. Judge gives the Yankees a higher ceiling because he has the ability to hit the ball out of the ballpark on every at bat and driving 6 runs in any given game. But he also has that ability to go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts. Whereas the Orioles, the better overall team, because they will consistently perform night after night after night. With the Yankees, if Judge doesn't hit, the Yankees probably score 1 or 2 runs that night. It's kind of how it goes. But just how freakishly good Aaron Judge is and how much better he makes Cody Bellinger. And that's the only argument that I'm willing to listen on Cody Bellinger, is that he had the luxury of hitting in front of Aaron Judge. And if
Mhm.
Cody Bellinger was hitting in front of Aaron Judge, is that why he hit 279 and hit 30 home runs, drove in nearly 100? And would he do that any place else?
Right.
So I get that. But anyway, today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone. We're in the throes of winter sports season at the high school level. All year long, find scores, schedules, and updates for every sport and every school all throughout the state of County Sport at countysports.zone. Countysports.zone is proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. A few more minutes left here on the show. Ryan Blake filling in for Zach Moore. And as always, we greatly appreciate your time with us, Ryan, especially being a dad to an 8-month-old. The Dodgers signed Kyle Tucker for 4 years, $240 million. They have Shohei Ohtani on their roster for 10 years, $700 million. They are paying average annual value $130 million between two players. Money against their payroll for this year between those two players because of the deferred money, $3 million. Are the Dodgers ruining baseball, or are they just playing the game within the constructs of the collective bargaining agreement, and any other team should be doing the same?
Yeah, both. They they they're not breaking any rules. They are more than allowed to do what they are doing. Does it suck for the other 29 teams watching them do that? Yeah. Do the other 29 teams have the capability to do that as well? Yeah. These guys are billionaire owners. Like multi, triple, 9, 12-figure money having people. I don't even know what I'm trying to say because I'm so frustrated. Yes, the Dodgers are not breaking any rules, but yes, it is ruining baseball. When you know that all the big names want to go there and are going to go there. I will say I was relieved, as frustrated as it is seeing the Dodgers acquire even more talent. And I made a joke where I was like, good for the Dodgers. They were in need of some star power on that roster.
Right.
But it was a relief that Tucker didn't go to the Blue Jays.
Yeah.
Because that would make them, I mean, I know they were in the World Series last year, but I'm not sure I consider them favorites in the division yet. They're going to be good, but there are a lot of good teams in the American League East. I was relieved that he didn't go there, but yeah, I mean, they're deferring all this money, and I think I responded to you with this fact. I was looking on Fangraphs roster resource. The Dodgers have more money committed to their 2028 roster as of right now than any other team has committed to their 2026 roster. And if you look ahead to 2029, they have more money committed to that roster than all but I think like 6 or 7 other teams have committed to this year. They've got these guys locked up for so long, and they're able to give them so much money because they're deferring so much of it. Like, yeah, they're gonna win the World Series again this year. Everybody knows it.
Mhm.
So like on that side, like yeah, that sucks for baseball because we're going into the season knowing that if a team dethrones them, it's going to be an absolute miracle. But like, yeah, they're doing it within the rules as of now. And I don't understand. I know the CBA is coming up, and I know that certain parties are going to be pushing for a salary cap. I'm not going to pretend to know all the ins and outs of the business of baseball, but something has to be done. Something has to be done. Something has to change. They're already getting taxed out the wazoo for any dollar figure over whatever the amount is right now. But like I don't know, dude. It's hard to watch a team like the Dodgers continue to stockpile talent coming off of back-to-back World Series wins and think that any other team has a shot. The Jays came close last year, but it's
Fraction
just,
of
I
an
don't
inch.
know, man. I don't know. Something's
Yeah.
got to be done. But also
Well,
the other factor to consider is like how do you, because they've already committed so much money down the road. If you do enforce like you can't make the Dodgers trade players to get under some kind of salary cap, right? You can't do that. You can't make them restructure contracts.
and that's what I point out. The Dodgers are Exhibit A. Why there won't be a salary cap. because
Yeah.
you've got so many guys on your roster making $30+ million a year, $20+ million a year. How are you going to stop them? Are you going to tell the Dodgers, oh, you got to trade them, you got to release them, you got to restart? Like, that's not going to happen. So
Max Muncy is set to make $10 million this year. He is the 14th highest paid player on that team.
That's insane.
It's nuts.
That's insane. That's absolutely insane. And that's the thing. There's going to be a work stoppage.
Yeah.
Next year. How long? I don't think we lose the whole season. I cannot imagine. I can see it bleeding into the regular season. But look, we thought that the 2022 season was dead and done. It was February. The reports were they were far apart in negotiations, and in the 11th hour, they came together and they agreed on the new 5-year CBA. But then we all knew within a year that we were going to be in the same position after 2027. We all knew it. Owners want a salary cap so bad. There's not going to be a salary cap without a salary floor, because you can't tell all these teams you can't spend as much, but then allow these other teams to not spend anything. There's not going to be a salary floor without a salary cap. Like, you can't have one without the other. But they're not going to get it. They're not going to get a salary cap. The players' union is way too strong. What it's going to come down to is, are we willing to lose all of our money because we can't make a little bit more, or we can't make max? The contracts are outrageous. It is out of control that I can get a notification on my phone and see Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker, good player. Good player. He's not Juan Soto. He's not Shohei Ohtani. He's not Aaron Judge. He's not Mike Trout. He's Kyle Tucker. $60 million a year. $60 million a year. That shouldn't be a thing. That should not be a thing. Like, maybe you don't have a salary cap, but maybe you say, if you're going to sign somebody for 4 years, they can't make more than this amount of money. I don't know. That's a form of a salary cap without capping your whole team, but it caps how much you can give. Or maybe they say you can't defer money. It's every penny has to be paid each season. You can't defer money. If they weren't able to defer money on contracts, would Shohei Ohtani and Kyle Tucker both be Dodgers? Probably not. Who can afford $130 million? I mean, the Dodgers can.
Yeah.
Or if you're spending $417 million on your roster, and the next closest team is more than $100 million below you, your luxury tax penalty should be $800 million. You should have to spend $1 billion. If you are at $417 million, then your luxury tax penalty should be $834 million. That'll stop teams from doing what the Dodgers are doing.
Yeah.
I'm not this I deal with finances. I do mortgages over Main Street home loans. But I'm not I don't know how to do that for Major League Baseball. But they've got to figure something out. And yes, every other team can do it, but they're not going to. And so you can't have it be that you have 4 teams that are willing to do this every year, and then the rest of your league won't. You've got to even level the playing field somehow. Oh, it's a level playing field because every team can do it. But they won't. They won't, so it's not a level playing field. You can't have 4 guys that are willing to do it and 26 that aren't. You just can't.
Yeah.
So the good news is the Blue Jays didn't get Tucker. They didn't get Bichette. They didn't get Alonso. They didn't get Schwarber. They didn't get Bellinger. So you just took, with Bichette, you took 18 homers, 94 RBIs, 44 doubles, and 181 hits out of your lineup. Is George Springer going to repeat what he just did in his age 36 season? Is George Springer putting up the same season they put up last year? That was like a career year for him. Is he doing that? No, because chances are he's going to get hurt like he usually does. So the Blue Jays, their rotation had to get better because their offense got worse. Their offense got worse. So that's good. The Yankees' offense, in my opinion, stays about where it was. Judge, Bellinger stand in the heart of that order. Like I said, Anthony Volpe sucks, and I'll say Anthony Volpe sucks till the day I die.
Are you hearing that tapping?
I am. I assumed you had like a cat. I assumed it was your cat or something.
No, I have no idea. It just I don't even know if it's coming from my computer or not.
It's coming from you.
Okay.
The way I'm hearing it, it's definitely coming from your end. Figure it out, Ryan. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think that you're right. I think the Dodgers are both ruining baseball and operating under the constructs of the current CBA. Yeah. Like, they're not doing anything wrong. It just feels like they are because it feels like bullshit. It feels like cheating. You're the one team that's willing to do this. It feels like cheating, but it's not. So today's show has been brought to you by the latest edition of Pressbox Print. Pressbox's annual Best of issue is available for just a couple more weeks, celebrating the top people, performances, and moments of the year in Baltimore sports, including our Mo Gaba Sports Person of the Year, Ravens safety Kyle Hamilton. You can find a new issue for free all throughout the region, including now all Baltimore area High's Dairy stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com. Don't know what's going on with Ryan over there. We have
I have no idea.
Have some comments I want to get to before we get out of here. This comment, this part of this I wholeheartedly disagree with. This is why I want to Bruce Bochy as a manager. He would tell lies to STFU and put Holiday at shortstop, Gunnar at third, Westberg at first, Kowser in left field, Bader in center field, and Beavers. I think he meant second base for Westberg, and Beavers O'Neill in right field, and Vasayo backup catcher only. Gunnar, nobody's moving Gunnar off as shortstop because he's Gunnar Henderson. Jackson Holiday may have the better glove, but doesn't have the arm to play shortstop. Westberg, fine, play him at third base, play him at second base, play him at short, play him at first. He can, in my opinion, Westberg can play anywhere that you put him, and he can play it well. There is no chance in hell that any manager is making Samuel Vasayo the backup catcher only, playing playing twice a week, basically. And there's also no way in hell that you're doing it because he just got an 8-year, like $83 million extension. So that's no. It could be Bruce Bochy, it could be Tommy Lasorda, it could be the ghost of Casey Stengel, ghost of Tommy Lasorda at this point. There is no manager, past or present, that would not play Vasayo just about every day. It just wouldn't happen.
I agree with all your points. I'm trying to stay muted so you don't hear this. I'm blown. I have never been more confused in my life. I don't know where this tapping is coming from.
A ghost. The ghost of Casey Stengel. AJ said the same reason I wanted Bill Belichick as the Ravens head coach. He would tell the college to go kick rocks. He's too busy sleeping with 24-year-olds. Like, let's see. Oh, AJ says, I love these segments. Soft toss with Ryan Blake, cut the axe with Dylan Atkinson, and bring the heat with Pigtown Sports. We did try to get a segment going with Zach, like a minor league report type of thing, but there's only like so many segments you can do talking about the minor leagues when you have a weekly show. Like because it wouldn't be like, oh, here's what's going on down the farm. It was going to be like propping up a player, talking about a good young minor leaguer who's having a good year. And there's only so many guys that you can talk about that people even know who the hell you're talking about. So, AJ says, I agree with everything about Gunnar, but I think Holiday is also primed for a huge season calling it now. I thought he was primed for a huge season last year. I believe in Holiday's bat to the point where I thought that he was going to hit 270 with like a 350 on base percentage. I thought he was going to hit 20 homers and steal 20 to 30 bags, and he didn't. But again, he just turned 22 in December. He got way better from 2024 into 2025. I expect him to take another step forward. The question is, what kind of player is Holiday? And I said this last year. Holiday in the minor leagues and Adley Rutschman in college and the minor leagues and his first couple years in the big leagues, prolific eyes at the plate. They walked as much, if not more, than they struck out. And then they both just stopped doing that. And I think it was the Orioles' offensive approach I think that they brought in a new hitting coach now who's going to let them be more of who they are. You did see Holiday's on-base capabilities get better the last month or so of the season. I need Holiday, and I think the Holiday season wasn't as good as it could have been because they made him be way too aggressive. They made him attack too early in the count instead of waiting for his pitch. I think that he was too passive as a rookie, and I think that he was too aggressive in his sophomore year. He's got to find a happy medium there. What he's capable of and what he's going to do this year could be two very different things. I think what he's capable of when he hits his peak is a 320 hitter that hits close to 30 home runs and steals 30 bags. What he's going to be this year is he going to be more like that 250 hitter that hits about 20 home runs and still pisses you off half the time. Like, I was very wrong about Holiday last year, so I'm not going to make any predictions. I do think he'll take a step forward. It's just how big is that step in 2026, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and I would love for Holiday to evolve into that guy. Is it going to happen this year? I don't know. I can't say I expect that significant of a leap. I do think, like you said, he'll take a step forward. But yeah, I mean, my whole point there was until he proves that he's that guy, he shouldn't be leading off.
Yeah.
Not yet.
No.
I would love for him to become that guy.
He didn't get on base. He didn't work counts the way you want your leadoff hitter to, and he didn't get on base nearly enough to be your leadoff hitter last year. And so, like, when Manzolino came out and said, Holiday's going to be a leadoff hitter for this team for the next 5 years, well, that's probably why one of the reasons Manzolino didn't get the job. You know, Met Hose, Bregman would have been a perfect fit for the O's. Bregman at third, Westy back to second, and Holiday in center field. I can agree with that. Bregman going to third, Westberg to second base, and then putting Holiday in center field. It solves a lot of problems for this team. But can Holiday's fast and athletic? Can he play center field? Does he have the arm to play center field?
Cedric Mullins didn't have the arm to play center field, and he was a damn good outfielder. I'd be okay with Holiday in center field. I mean, you want to see him get some work out there first, of course. But to the Bregman point, I mean, Bregman would be a great fit on any team. But with that said, he's a dead pull hitter, and I don't think he's a good fit for Camden Yards. So I'm not sure I would have given Bregman the money that he commanded to play half of his games at a stadium that's not very good for right-handed hitters. Pete Alonso is a guy who drives the ball the opposite way quite a bit. Alex Bregman is not that guy. He is dead pull hitter, and I think he'd have a lot of home runs taken away by that deeper wall out in left field. And that's just my 2 cents.
Alonso's pull side power, there's not a ballpark in baseball that would limit him. You know?
Exactly. Yep.
AJ, Yankees have a very good catcher, Bellinger, and a massive rotation besides Judge. They are still the top dog in the division. I mean, they had the same record as the Blue Jays, and the Blue Jays went to the World Series. So both teams, I think, offensively got a little bit worse. But both teams on the pitching side, I think, got a little bit. The Yankees really haven't done anything. The thing that they've done is trade for Ryan Weathers and pick up and re-sign Cody Bellinger. The problem that I have is now they've got Max Fried and Ryan Weathers, 2 nasty lefties in their rotation. The Red Sox have Ranger Suarez and Garrett Crochet. There's some nasty lefties in this division. And we talked about it. There are 3 hitters on the Orioles roster currently that hit better than 224 against left-handed pitching. And I think Jeremiah Jackson was one of them.
Sorry, I had to unmute. I forgot about Jeremiah Jackson.
Yeah.
Is he going to be on the roster, you think? I mean, Mateo's not.
Right now they don't have a utility player.
Yeah.
You know, so he profiles as like a 5th outfielder and a backup third baseman. You know, his bat warrants him getting a look. And he held his own in right field. I don't love the idea of infielders playing the outfield, which is why I'm hesitant about moving Holiday to center field, though I think he can do it. But what he did for the Orioles last year, once he got called up, I think warrants giving him an extended look in spring training. I don't think it means that he's 100% on the roster, but it warrants giving him an extended look.
I agree. I'm going to grab my charger real quick because I'm wondering if low battery is the cause of this ticking. Of course, it seems to stop when I start talking, but I don't know. I'm going to grab my charger 1 second.
Gotcha. AJ says, these players and their families in Scott Forest love living in SoCal to avoid snowstorms. They defer money for the weather. I think they defer money to win and to know that when they're done playing baseball, they don't have to worry about anything because they're still going to get paid millions upon millions upon millions of dollars until they're, senior citizens. I think that's what it is. Adit, thoughts on a moving salary cap and floor where you sum the average annual value of the top 5 currently paid at each position, and the cap and floor scale is 50%. Dude, that just made my brain hurt. Moving on a moving salary cap and floor. I didn't take my Adderall today, so like my brain's having a hard time focusing on this. Where you sum the average annual value of the top 5 currently paid at each position, and the cap and floor scale is 50% less than 50% more of the average sum.
So I'm gonna need a few minutes to figure that one out.
Kind of like what they do with the franchise tag, where you get paid the average of the top 5 at your position on the franchise tag. And then, so basically, and then the floor scale is 50% less, 50% more of the average sum. So the average sum for your entire roster, is that what you're saying, Adit? So like each position is the average value of the top 5 currently paid. Okay, I get what you're saying. So the top 5 currently paid at each position. And then that's not what you can spend on players at that position, but it's basically saying you take the top 5 average annual salary, and for each year, so the cap and the floor starts new at the beginning of each season, and whatever the top 5 average is, the sum of it all added together, the floor is 50% less than that. The ceiling is 50% more than that. So let's say that the average for all the positions is $250 million. You have to spend at least $125 million, and you can't spend more than $375 million.
Exactly.
That's what he's saying. I knew I could get there. I just wasn't prepared for that kind of math yet, which I still think would be high. I still think that would be high. That your salary cap is $375 million, and your salary. I think it's got to be closer to like 275 and 150 for your salary floor and salary cap. But I like there are guys way more qualified than me to do that. Let's see. Beavers, Westbrook, Henderson, Alonso, Ward, Rutschman, O'Neill, Kowser, Holiday, Basayo versus right-handed pitching. I can see that. I can see that. I don't hate it. But the whole reason they brought Tyler O'Neill in was, but you can't do that because you've got.
That's 10 guys.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That is 10 guys, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 outfielders and 2 catchers. So you would need 2 DHs.
I think Basayo's at shortstop in this exercise.
You got, yeah, that can't be. I mean, because you have 10 and you have 4 outfielders and 2 catchers in your lineup. So if you're sitting Rutschman or not, I think
if Dylan Beavers is going to be a 370 to 400 on base guy against righties, I'm fine with leading him off against righties. But I don't think he's there yet, and until he proves that he can do that consistently, I'm still beating the drum on hitting Gunnar Henderson leadoff personally.
Yeah, and I think that your lineup against left-handed guys would you remove Beavers, and then you've got, and you have to remove Kowser, I think. Well, but then you can't, one of those guys has to play, so it's probably Kowser.
The lineup against lefties is not going to strike fear into anybody, I don't think. The players will. Their ability to hit lefties won't.
Yeah. Because against left-handed pitching, you're going to have Ward on left. You're going to have O'Neill on right. Basayo at first base. I mean, not Basayo at first base. Alonso at first base. You're going to have Basayo catching. Oh. Rutschman's probably catching against lefties. I don't have to know, man. Again, this roster doesn't make any freaking sense. It doesn't make any sense right now. It's very frustrating. It almost makes my head hurt as much as that salary cap thing from Adik did. Stanley Booth, 4893. I'm going to spring training early March. My brother works for Tampa Basement. That's awesome, man. I've only been to spring training once, and we got the 2 worst weather days of the entire spring season. It was 62 degrees as the high combined for those 2 days, and it was overcast the entire time. And our hotel had water roaches, had like water bugs all over it. It was disgusting. I think we figured it out. Take some of the current franchise tags instead of scale at 50%, less to 50% more. So they don't have franchise tags in baseball. They have qualifying offers. So yeah,
I think he put that comment in when we were trying to equate it to football.
Yeah. So yeah, it's been a great show, really great show in my opinion. We had a lot to talk about. Hopefully, there's a lot more to talk about. Hopefully, there's a starting pitcher acquisition that we love when we do the show next week, and then we can talk about how this Orioles team measures up. What I really want to try and do next week is look at what the Orioles could be if each player on their roster matches their career best season.
They might compete with the Dodgers if that's the case.
Yeah, for sure. But that's going to do it for us here on the Bat Around. Brian, do you want to add anything before we get out of here?
Only that I figured out the tapping, and it was happening when you were talking, so I think it was some kind of reaction from my speaker. So I'll go headset next week, and we should be smooth sailing. That's all I have to add.
Gotcha. All right, Ryan, great to have you back on the show. We look forward to having you back on again next week, and hopefully you'll be able to fill in throughout the season when Zach isn't able to do a show. So I'll definitely be in contact about that. I look forward to speaking baseball with you all year long, whether it's on social media or on here. Good luck to you and that baby. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get better. Like, and when I say that, people, Ryan feels like it couldn't possibly be better. Like, I can just tell by the dad he is. He feels like it couldn't possibly be better. Dude, every stage, some of it can suck, but it gets better and better and better and better. My daughter just turned 2, and she's like by far and away my favorite thing in the world. By far and away my favorite thing in the world. You know, and it's not even close. So really appreciate you taking time away from the family to come do the show with us. Thanking all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thanking all of our loyal viewers, listeners. Without you, we 100% do not have a show. So thank you very much. Until next week,